For young Albert Einstein, things turned out to be far from simple at the beginning of his journey. Born in 1879 in the city of Ulm in the kingdom of Württemberg, he looked at the world around him in a remarkable way when he happened to stumble upon a childhood mystery that illuminated his mind. The compass, with its magical needle, struck the imagination of 5-year-old Albert, awakening in him an enduring fascination with the invisible forces of nature. Albert Einstein's parents played different roles in his childhood. His father, Hermann Einstein, an engineer and entrepreneur in the field of electrical equipment, passed on to his son a sense of observation and rational thinking. His mother, Pauline, instilled in him a love of music by teaching him to play the violin, which in turn developed the boy's concentration and attention. Albert's educational path was neither simple nor straightforward. He first attended a Catholic elementary school and then the Luitpold Gymnasium in Munich. However, his relationship with teachers was not always harmonious, which ultimately resulted in him being left without a diploma after moving to Italy in 1894. Nevertheless, his thirst for knowledge soon revealed itself. Albert continued his education at a Swiss school in the canton of Aargau and eventually ended up at the Zurich Polytechnic. A love of self-directed learning and the works of such scientific giants as Isaac Newton shaped his future path. Albert did not become a revolutionary right away, but his perseverance and hard work gradually began to bear fruit. At the beginning of the 20th century, after finishing his studies, Einstein dared to enter the world of scientific discovery, but few knew that his drive toward the unknown had been instilled much earlier. In the next step, we will see how his strange ideas changed the physics we are familiar with. A peaceful revolution. By the beginning of the 20th century, Albert Einstein was working as a junior expert at the patent office in Bern, completely unaware that he would become the author of one of the greatest intellectual revolutions in history. It was in this Swiss city that he formulated the special theory of relativity, astonishing the world at the very dawn of the new century. The theory was based on two key postulates. The laws of physics are the same for all inertial reference frames, and the speed of light remains constant, regardless of the motion of the source. Not everyone understood it, but this discovery changed the very perception of time and space, merging them into a single spacetime continuum. His formula E equals mc squared was especially striking as it proved the equivalence of mass and energy and became a symbol of the scientific revolution. Newtonian classical mechanics, which for centuries was considered unshakable, turned out to be only an approximate theory, explaining the world at low speeds. At high speeds, close to the speed of light, a new physics was needed. But not all the gaps had been filled. Einstein realized that it was necessary to answer the question of gravity. This would take the coming years of his life. In 1915, decades later, he presented the general theory of relativity, describing gravity as the curvature of spacetime rather than a traditional force. New mysteries and their solutions awaited him ahead. Which ones exactly? The next step would reveal new horizons of his brilliant discoveries. Unknown creativity. It's hard to believe, but with his earlier research on the photoelectric effect in 1905, Albert Einstein gave the world the key to understanding the quantum nature of light. It was then that the idea of light quanta, or photons, was born, which became the cornerstone of quantum physics. In 1917, he expanded on his ideas by proposing the foundations of stimulated emission, which later led to the creation of lasers. This contribution is one of those discoveries that, at the time, remained underappreciated. Although his beginnings at the Bern Patent Office helped forge his way of thinking, by the time these ideas emerged, Einstein had already earned international scientific respect. He was able to change perceptions not only in the field of physics. In 1926, together with his colleague Leo Szilard, they created something unexpected, a new type of refrigerator. Their invention, the first environmentally friendly device, did not gain widespread use, but in itself became a vivid example of the scientist's creativity. Einstein's influence on various scientific fields was unprecedented. His intellectual legacy became a catalyst for revolutionary technologies that were only appreciated decades later. But he never limited himself to pure science. None of his projects were overshadowed by his interest in larger questions of humanity and society. Such duality is an integral part of genius. So where did he next challenge both himself and the world around him? This direction of his thinking did not leave indifferent those who stood by his side during difficult and significant times. A personal war against war. In the era of the Great Wars, Albert Einstein emerged as a voice of pacifism. His convictions were shaped after the horrors of World War I, when he actively expressed his humanistic views by signing the Manifesto of Pacifist Professors. Later, with the rise of the Nazis to power in 1933, Einstein, being Jewish, realized the vulnerability of his people to aggression and arrived in the United States. Einstein understood that scientific achievements could be used for both good and ill purposes. In 1939, under the influence of a group of physicists led by Leo Szilard, he signed the famous letter to President Roosevelt, warning about nuclear research in Nazi Germany. At times, his pacifism gave way, as he acknowledged the necessity of acting against the threat of fascism. After the end of World War II and the use of atomic weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein once again steadfastly supported the ideas of disarmament and peace. His calls for peacemaking became even more passionate, drawing the world's attention to the importance of humanism. In his letters and statements, his attitude toward militarism evolved, from resolute pacifism to a temporary pragmatic stance, and then back to a firm conviction in the necessity of peace. But Einstein's involvement in the events of that era was not limited to reflections on war alone. Exciting events continued to catch up with the scientist even during the quieter periods of his life. There was an important element in his life that refracted physical equations into a world of sensual beauty, leading to unexpected results. Einstein and music. Music accompanied Albert Einstein from childhood, but his love for the violin began at the age of 6 under the guidance of teachers, even though at first the harmony of the lessons seemed boring to him. His mother, the pianist Pauline Einstein, played a key role in awakening her son's interest in the world of music and supporting his creative pursuits. Einstein especially revered the music of Mozart, Bach, and Handel, finding in their works the perfect combination of strict architecture and harmony. Inspired by this musical beauty, he often picked up his violin before tackling complex scientific problems. According to him, music attuned his mind to a harmonious wavelength, helping to push aside the bustle and focus on solving research tasks. Einstein often took his violin with him on trips. During scientific gatherings, he would find moments to play music together with colleagues such as Max Planck and Max Born. These impromptu concerts helped to foster friendships and exchange ideas in an informal setting. One particularly memorable occasion was when Einstein gave a charity concert, directing the proceeds to support emigrant scientists. Thus, the violin remained not only a personal source of inspiration, but also a powerful means of cultural and scientific exchange. This string instrument turned out to be the link that connected his scientific work with the foundations of human creativity. But music was just one aspect of Einstein's multifaceted personality. It reflected other, no less significant elements of his life. The secrets of correspondence. Albert Einstein's correspondence reveals his multifaceted nature and complex relationships with those close to him, as well as with society as a whole. His letters to his first wife, Mileva Maric, seem particularly interesting. Their relationship was marked not only by passion, but also by an ironic distance. Maric often replied in a reserved tone, reflecting mixed feelings and the complex knot of their creative interaction. Despite references to working together, their interactions were more about personal matters than scientific ones. Research shows that Maric did not take an active part in the creation of the theory of relativity, although the correspondence itself reveals touching joint efforts in other aspects of their lives. It is important to note that Einstein's mother was against this union, calling Mileva the lame one. The story of their first daughter, Lieserl, adds a note of sadness. The difficulties surrounding her birth and fate remain shrouded in mystery. All that is known is that the girl either died in infancy from complications, after scarlet fever, or was given up for adoption, which underscores the hardships of their life together. No less significant are Einstein's letters to other women and colleagues. These lines are full of humor, romance, and philosophical reflections, allowing us to see the scientist as a feeling, thinking person who deeply experienced the events of his time. Through these letters, his interest in philosophy, social justice, and pressing societal issues is revealed, showing him as a person striving to go beyond the boundaries of science. Many astonishing discoveries were hidden in his next steps, waiting for their time to come. More than just a physicist. What is interesting is not only Albert Einstein's contribution to science, but also his philosophical, humanitarian, and political views. He was a committed pacifist and advocated for the idea of a world government as a way to prevent wars, condemning nationalism and militarism. As early as 1933, when the Nazis came to power, Einstein renounced his German citizenship and emigrated to the United States, becoming a citizen in 1940 and then helped Jewish refugees. Before Hitler came to power, Einstein was an advocate of complete disarmament and criticized the limited measures of the League of Nations. However, with the outbreak of World War II, his pacifism took on a more pragmatic tone. In 1939, upon learning about the Nazi nuclear program, he signed a letter to Roosevelt together with Leo Szilard, urging the United States to begin developing atomic weapons. After the war ended, he devoted himself to the ideas of disarmament and the peaceful use of nuclear energy, reminding the world of the importance of humanism. Einstein's philosophical views also touched upon the relationship between science and religion. He often said that science and religion, by which he meant a profound spirituality and sense of wonder, complement each other. This idea is reflected in his famous phrase, "Science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind." He also supported the idea of Zionism, but was opposed to the creation of a separate Jewish nation-state. He dreamed of peaceful coexistence with the Arab population under international supervision. Einstein remains not only a symbol of scientific progress, but also an example of a person striving for harmony and justice in the world. His humanistic ideas were always intertwined with his scientific work, giving it a unique depth. What legacy did the scientist leave for future generations, despite the widespread myths and legends? We will soon find ourselves at the origins of this complex story. Myths and legends. Albert Einstein does not always fit into conventional frameworks. One of the most striking distortions of his story is the claim that he was a failure at school. In reality, when it came to mathematics and physics, he was ahead of the school curriculum and achieved excellent results, struggling only with French, geography, and drawing. We can also mention the episode involving his attempt to enroll at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. A lack of points in subjects unrelated to his interests prevented him from passing the first time. But a year later, he confidently made up for the gaps and became a student, proving his abilities. Einstein is often discussed as a critic of the probabilistic interpretation of quantum mechanics. However, his contribution to quantum theory remains significant. He explained the photoelectric effect, thereby earning the Nobel Prize. This highlights his deep understanding and innovation, even despite his skepticism towards certain aspects of the theory. Myths also surround Einstein's role in the creation of the atomic bomb. Einstein wrote to President Roosevelt about the possibility of nuclear developments in Germany, thereby indirectly contributing to the start of the Manhattan Project. Later, he regretted the consequences and became an active opponent of nuclear weapons. These and other mistaken stereotypes do not overshadow the true image of the scientist, whose legacy has amazed and inspired for more than 100 years. He left us not just science, but a broad perspective on humanity and the structure of the world. Even today, his ideas continue to astonish and inspire us toward new horizons. Einstein, a citizen of the world. Albert Einstein, whose name is associated with scientific discoveries, was also a passionate advocate of the idea of global unity. Instead of unproven claims about his active involvement in the League of Nations, it is worth emphasizing his conviction that nationalism and borders only deepen division and conflict. Einstein believed that major nations should share their sovereignty to create a world government with real authority, capable of preventing wars. This brilliant scientist often expressed concern about the need for international oversight, especially after the horrors of World War II. Einstein believed that only the unification of states under a single world body could lead to lasting peace. His criticism of the UN was that without transferring some military sovereignty, real power could not be achieved. Although Einstein did not maintain direct communication with many politicians, his views influenced discussions among the international elite. His letter to President Roosevelt in 1939 about the need to control nuclear weapons is a vivid example of this. He strongly warned against racial discrimination, especially in the United States, and actively spoke out against anti-Semitism, participating in American civil rights organizations. Einstein left a profound legacy not only as a transformer of physics, but also as a proponent of global solidarity. His ideas continue to inspire people to strive for unity and justice. Einstein's legacy is not only formulas and theories, but also a reflection of his vision of a world where coexistence is possible without borders and prejudice. How are his ideas embodied in our modern world, and what unknown discoveries are still waiting for their time? Einstein's legacy. The legacy of Albert Einstein is so immense that it is hard to overestimate his impact on modern science and technology. As the founder of the theory of relativity, Einstein changed our understanding of gravity, time, and space, becoming a cornerstone of theoretical physics. His ideas had a significant impact on our understanding of gravitational phenomena and macroscopic scales, which we now study in the context of black holes and gravitational waves, phenomena whose existence was confirmed only decades after his predictions. Einstein also played a key role in the development of quantum mechanics through his work on the photoelectric effect. At the beginning of the 20th century, he proposed that light has a quantum nature, laying the theoretical foundations that would later be developed and lead to the creation of lasers and other technologies such as LEDs. Einstein also demonstrated that energy and mass are interchangeable, as stated in his famous formula E equals mc multiplied by c squared. Although this formula played an important role in the development of nuclear physics and the creation of atomic energy, the path to nuclear power plants was paved by the work of many scientists who came after him. Interestingly, his work also influenced modern technologies such as global positioning systems, whose accuracy is achieved by accounting for the effects of general relativity, a fact that continues to amaze even in everyday life. Nuclear medicine, which developed in part thanks to theoretical work in nuclear physics, received at least indirect support from Einstein's discoveries. His greatness lies not only in his specific scientific works, but also in his ability to inspire new generations of scientists to seek new horizons and to rethink our understanding of the universe. These scientific achievements are just the tip of the iceberg. Many of the 20th century's great minds worked alongside Einstein, yet their sciences often remain in the shadows. This story will lead us to little-known heroes who, like Albert, made their own quiet contributions to history. Hidden geniuses are among us. In the shadow of Albert Einstein's fame stood equally remarkable minds and friends who left their mark on science. One of them was Marcel Grossmann. Born in Switzerland, he became an invaluable partner to Einstein in mastering complex mathematical concepts such as Riemannian geometry and tensor analysis. Their collaboration began back in their student years, when Grossmann helped Einstein navigate the intricacies of the general theory of relativity. It was Grossmann's mathematical expertise that laid the foundation for the idea, but Einstein himself continued to refine the theory to perfection. Among the people close to Einstein was his first wife, Mileva Maric. Their relationship is sometimes called into question, especially regarding her involvement in his scientific work. Historians continue to debate, but one thing remains clear. Mileva was an important support in Einstein's life during the early stages of his career. Another brilliant mind of that era was Peter Debye, a Dutch physicist and chemist who made a tremendous contribution to the understanding of the structure of crystals and molecules. Although he was not directly connected to Einstein or his theory, his research became an important part of the scientific mosaic of the 20th century. Einstein's legacy in the future exceeded all expectations. Today, his theories, especially the general theory of relativity, have found applications in a wide variety of technologies, from astrophysics to the global positioning system. Once seen as merely an abstract concept, his contribution comes to life in our devices and satellites, paving the way for new discoveries and inspiring current and future generations of scientists. But how are these scientific marvels brought to life? That is another story, full of original solutions and unexpected possibilities. Einstein today, the Global Positioning System or GPS, this is a remarkable example of how Einstein's theory has found application in our everyday lives. These technologies are remarkably accurate thanks to the consideration of two effects of relativity at once. Because satellites move at higher speeds, their time slows down, as predicted by the special theory of relativity. But in orbit, clocks run faster compared to those on Earth due to the weaker gravitational field, which is related to the general theory of relativity. The final correction, which satellites synchronize with Earth, ensures the accuracy of navigation. In nuclear medicine, the principle of E equals mc squared has had a significant impact on the use of radioactive decay for diagnosis and treatment. Although Einstein did not work directly in the field of radioactivity, his ideas about the relationship between mass and energy laid the foundation for the use of such technologies in medicine, where they found wide application precisely through further advances in nuclear physics. Einstein also made a significant contribution to quantum theory. His work on the photoelectric effect, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize, greatly advanced the understanding of light quanta and laid the foundations of physics that later enabled the development of lasers. Although Einstein's connection to modern fiber optic communication is indirect, his ideas supported the development of technologies that we use today for data transmission. The predictions of the general theory of relativity spurred research into black holes. These astronomical objects, whose description became possible thanks to works that developed Einstein's ideas, continue to captivate our imagination. Gravitational waves, confirmed only recently, also have their roots in his work. Although he was skeptical about their physical reality, modern discoveries have confirmed their existence. So, even today, Einstein remains behind the scenes of many marvelous technologies that surround us. His legacy is active in every GPS navigator and medical device. This is only the beginning of a journey inspired by scientific ideas, whose technologies continue to evolve, promising new horizons.